members that I need, and we'll move forward at that point. I have Norm Cheever,
Yes.
Mike Coombs,
Yeah.
Malcolm DeBay,
Here.
Michael DeBay here. Dick is absent, Scotty Gay is absent, Annie's absent, Deborah Harris,
Here.
Eric Wheeler,
Here.
and we have two guests. We have Doug and we have Jerry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Starting with the agenda, we've got our attendees. I'm not going to read through Governor Baker's whole order, but that we're complying with that order by having a Zoom meeting because no in-person meetings are allowed until they've changed the direction from the state. So we're going to move forward and plan guests. We know we got two guests tonight, and thank you for both of you for coming. The first item on the agenda I wanted to hit was coming down the list is on the COMCOM meeting update. And that would normally be Norm, but Jerry, you're welcome to speak up if you have something.
Okay, I'll let Norm go first. I have a couple things, but he'll probably
Okay.
have the same.
From the, let me do the October 19th meeting first. The 34 Grove Street item was formally approved. There is no deck over the water. They are replacing a deck and they are replacing steps. And it was approved unanimously.
Right.
Okay.
They're also adding two walls to
Yeah.
the, but yes, it passed.
All right.
Then from the November 2nd meeting, there was, if you remember correctly, I had said I'd go visit Kurt Saunders to talk to him about the discrepancy between the number of boats he had submitted stickers for and the boat inventory that we had taken. And he did submit an additional $430. So we went from 72 boats up to 82.5 boats. And the total LPP income for the year topped at $13,950. And that is the highest that it has ever been.
Well, good.
And we
Okay,
got
so,
2,200 of that from Suffield.
right.
We should have got 5,500, but that's okay.
Whatever.
So that
Okay.
is my update. If Jerry's got anything additional, I'd be glad to turn it over to him.
Norm, you're so good. You covered both things I had. I only have one more really small thing. We just had a sewer implementation meeting, and there was some discussion about West Suffield potentially connecting some properties to the sewer system. I believe it's just in the talking stage right now, but definitely will keep you folks posted if I hear anything. It might go a long way to helping make things a little cleaner on that, for the whole lake.
Yes.
That'd
Wow.
be
And that's pretty much all I have.
okay. Thank you very much. Let me get that written down. Taking notes here as fast as I can. All right. As we go
Mr.
down.
DeBay, I'll get you the recording when the meeting's over. If you
Okay,
send me your
thank you.
email, I'll be able to send that to you.
Okay, thank you. I will. I'll send it. I'll give you my email. Do you have a pen right now?
Of course I do.
If
Shoot,
not, I'll wait till the end of the meeting.
go right ahead.
It's DeBay, DEBAY, MJ @yahoo.com.
Okay.
Okay. Under the old business section, lake assessment and treatment. There's a couple of things under there. The water level as of the 11th of the 8th of November, that'd be November 8th, 2020, was 224 feet 5 inches. That's up another inch. That's basically staying where normal level would be maintained. The only other question I had under that would be to Eric. When do you think we're going to get an update from Ken Wagner,
Update on what?
the treatment?
All right, so we got the annual, I just got the annual report from him. So I haven't reviewed it yet, and then I'll kind of turn it over once I do. Then there's a follow-up that we need to do next year, because with any of these treatments, the second year is much more telling than the first. In other
Okay,
words, that really tells you where you're at. I don't know if this is the time you want to talk about salt. Trying to look through the lake chemistry to see if we can see effects from salt.
we can cover it now. I had it listed farther down the list, but it doesn't make any difference to me. Let me just make sure we're clear on the last one. You've got it, you're reviewing it, and after you've done reviewing it, then it'll get put out for information to people.
Yep.
Okay, do we have a copy at the town hall already for Dick? It's gotta be on
It
file.
was emailed, so I have it, and so does Dick.
Okay. All right, thanks. I just want to make sure we got one because I know they have to have it on file there too. And we can look forward, we'll put you on the next agenda or something next month
Sure.
to give us an update. All right, you want to go to the salt intrusion?
Sure. So, I was going to share a couple of graphs, but it's not letting me. I think you have to host disabled participant screen sharing. Do you know how to turn it back on?
I do. Try it now.
Hey, look at that.
Like magic.
It's actually showing a whole screen. That doesn't, unfortunate. Okay, I'm not sure what.
I'm not seeing anything. Is anybody?
Hang on.
No, I'm not seeing it yet. It's coming now, I think. There you go.
There you
You
go.
got it.
There it is.
Okay, so I'm just going to show a few things. So this is just taking a quick look through some of the data. These are July, these are conductivity, okay? These are July averages at 3 meters depth from 2015 to 2020. This is August, and this is yearly averages, just averaging all the data for those years. One thing to note is the 2020 increase in conductivity is due to the treatment. Okay, in other words, it'll be high the year you treat, because that brings conductivity up for other reasons. It has nothing to do with salt. So we kind of have an idea what the noise level is in the data. We're going to have to look at it, next year, next season. We'll take the data that we're taking, and I can look at it this way. This was just one example set. Of course, I can look over, many, many pieces of data and at a number of different depths. This isn't the only place we can look. So the easiest thing for us to do is to look at the conductivity and see if we see the conductivity coming up as a result of the salt. The more difficult thing to do would be to do sampling at the inflows. That is something we could do. That would be an additional activity. At this point, what Ken and I talked about it, and at this point, what we're going to do is I will monitor the data, where I'll take data next year, just like I always have. And then we'll analyze the data and see if we see the conductivity coming up, or in this case, staying up, because it should come down now that we're past the treatment. It should be down in 2021. And if it's not, then that's sort of suggestive that we're getting salt runoff into the lake. One thing to understand, over the years, a lot of work was put in to putting flow separators into the inflows. Most of them, there's only a handful that don't have flow separators anymore, and that's very good. That prevents sediment from going in. That also will decrease the effect of salt runoff. So those flow separators are protecting the lake somewhat. And the question is, how much?
Mhm.
They will actually, hey, Eric, can I ask a question? Well, they'll actually help something that's in solution, because the salt would be in solution by the time it's going to the lake.
Yeah, but it doesn't get there, because what happens is it's in solution, but it comes into a flow separator, and in that
Right.
flow separator, stuff tends to settle. So if we look, there is some salt in solution, but there's the bigger issue is runoff salt, like sand that runs off. You know, because when you salt the road, some of the stuff goes in solution, but a lot of it winds up as little, you know, as little.
Right.
chunks.
It breaks down, yeah.
Yeah. And so the flow separator will take that stuff out, and it'll also detain the water, giving an opportunity for more salt to come out. How much will it protect the lake? The data will tell over time.
Did Ken give us any kind of numbers to use as a trigger or to get worried?
Yeah, it's a comparative number, not an absolute number. So I shared this data with him. He looked at it. He's like, okay, you know, let's just monitor it. He said it's possible you could see it in 1 year, but you might well need a couple of years to see the effect.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, we've discussed this before. Certainly there are balances to all the different things that you're trying to do when you're trying to manage the roads, manage other environmental concerns. Certainly around lakes, we would rather see less salt be used, not more.
Right.
You know, it's certainly not good for the lake. Is it going to make a big effect on the lake? That's unclear. We'll build up the data and see. The disappointing thing there, of course, is it will probably take a couple of years to show up. And if the town decided as a result of that to stop using salt, it would take years for it to go back down. That's
Okay, well, we're assuming right now that from the 19 to 20, the increase is there mainly because of the treatment we did.
that will definitely drive the increase. And in fact, I didn't show the data here, but Ken did measurements just before the treatment and just after the treatment. So, you know, he could see the effect of the treatment itself.
Yeah.
And so that has nothing to do with the winter. In other words, the data that he took, and I took data also before the treatment, that data did not show, you know, substantially increased conductivity. So, and of course, we had basically no winter last year. You know, so treatment is definitely what drove these 2020 numbers. And we have the data to say that that's what happened. Now let's see what happens in 21.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions for Eric?
So Eric, that's the best way to tell is the connectivity?
No, that's the easiest way to tell. The best way to tell is to put sampling stations at the locations where water enters the lake. And that is something that can be done. I cannot afford that much of my personal time to do that. That's something we would wind up having to pay for, and that would not be cheap. That is the best way to do it. The conductivity is data we take anyway, and it should show up in the conductivity.
Would it show up sooner if we were taking samples of the water?
We're taking samples at the run-in, yes.
How much money are we talking?
I don't know. I'd have to look into it. It would depend on how extensive a sampling we wanted to do. We'd have to find a place that would be willing to do it. My guess is we could find someone. I don't have a quote. If you think about it, though, you know, they have to come. They have to do setups. They have to come after snowstorms. You know, just like when we wanted to get the oxygen depletion numbers for the lake, I did those measurements. You know, I went to a dozen infalls and made three sets of measurements at a dozen infalls, each measurement done prior to a storm, during a storm, and after a storm. And, you know, that was a lot of work. I think if we were paying somebody to do that, it would be probably a few tens of thousands. You know, they've got to send somebody, they've got to, you know, it's a pretty big undertaking. That doesn't mean we couldn't do it, but I don't think it'll be cheap. I could look into it. At this point, when he and I talked about it, his perspective was, let's look at the conductivity data. You take it regularly. We've got years of history on it. Let's see if we see a reaction in the conductivity data.
Okay, I'm just thinking that if it takes years to figure it out, then it takes years to get rid of it. That's all.
Absolutely, you are right. You are right.
But
I would think at this point, given we treated this year, is there any reason to believe next year is going to be off normal? So it should be back down to where it was, I'm assuming.
Correct, correct.
If we don't see that, then next year we should invest in more time and energy and money into doing a better project of figuring it
Right.
out.
I think that's a reasonable suggestion where we look at what it looks like next year, and based on that, maybe we, as you know, I agree with Deb's concern. Maybe that motivates us to go, okay, let's go do a sampling. I'm not exactly sure why the town decided that that was the optimal solution, of balance of all things. And clearly there is a balance here. I'm not saying this is black and white, they should be doing this, not that. I'm not an expert on this at all. But when we look around, you drive around, when you drive near lakes, you see signs that say reduced salt area, right? That's the common thing you see, but we're taking the exact opposite approach and going all salt, no sand. So.
Yeah, and you can plainly see it on the roads.
Yeah, now, as I said, we've got flow separators which protect the lake somewhat. So I can't tell you, and Ken will say also, he can't tell you that this will absolutely be a very bad thing for the lake. We don't know that. In general, it's preferred to avoid doing this, and it's what we're doing. So we'll look at the data and see what it says.
Okay, and
Okay,
then
yeah.
one option is also to reduce the salt in the area around the lakes.
Yes, and that was brought up. The idea being that then you'd be asking the town to manage it in such a way that when the trucks go out, when they're going around the lake area or area that contributes quickly to the, that's watershed that contributes quickly to the lake, that area you use sand, the rest of it you use salt. Yes. And that's easy for me to say. I'm not the guy who has to manage the trucks. So.
Okay, Eric, this is Norm. A couple questions. If we wanted to keep the sampling in-house in our committee, I assume that we could train another individual or two to take samples if we needed to, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It's not so much the training of how to take the samples. Yes, I need volunteers to do that, but the other part of it is setting up the sites. I can tell you from when I did this several years ago, that is a lot of work, and that I can't just train somebody to do. I'll tell you, for that storm sampling, I tried to get help, and a number of people said they would, but they didn't. In other words, when it came down to it, it was like, no, you have to do it right now. We're going to have a storm in 3 hours. You've got to go sample now. Well, I can't. I'm painting my toaster or whatever it is. It's like, no, it has to be right now. And it's like, no, I can't do it now. Okay, so now I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm going to
Gotcha.
remember that one though. Painting my toaster. I haven't used that
Yeah.
excuse yet.
It's like sorting my sock drawer,
Yes.
Now, my next thought is we have multiple streets that are steep slopes that go down to the lake that we can't go light on the salt.
Yep.
You could go sand, but you couldn't go light on the salt because they need it probably more than most of the streets.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, the flow separators will be buying us some protection. There's no question that that's been a more than a decade of work put in by the town, and support from the state, and it's there's no question. I'll tell you, when I was doing the stormwater sampling, it was very clear that those separators were making a wonderful difference in keeping all kinds of runoff out of the lakes. So it will help us in the salt also. That's been a terrific thing that was done.
Okay.
Okay, for where we're gonna leave it then, let's decide. My recommendation is we pick it up and watch the numbers. If we don't see a decrease like we expect to see, then we have to go with a harder evaluation process. And if we need to do more sampling or whatever it is, we'll have to dig into it and do that. That's all
Agreed.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So if you get any more info like that, Eric, if you can get it into Annie ahead of time, she can get it out in the notes so everybody can read it.
Yep. I apologize. My day job is pretty busy right now.
Yeah. But it makes it a little easier for everybody to take a look at it and think about it.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Under new business, I have some other items there. We skipped over to get to the salt intrusion one, but the buoys, the DPW stored them for the winter. They were taken care of. The south ramp docks were removed by the state on 10/28/20. I also had him look at the wheel that's locked up on the north ramp dock. And he was gonna bring it back to the state and see if they would authorize him to do the work to fix the wheel. Basically, so everybody knows what's going on, that wheel that was bent in underneath, it's got a slight bow in the axle because of the wheel being pushed over. But the wheel, what holds the wheel in place is a carter pin and a big washer. And the wheel overrode and washer overrode the carter pin and slid down the shaft and was going back and forth. And when it did that, it bent the shaft. The correct fix would probably be to get the wheel back in the right position and either get the axle straightened or get a new one. All it is like a 4-foot wide bar, and then put something bigger than a washer on it. You need a collar, something big enough to hold the wheel in place. So over the winter, we'll have to look at that. I looked in the shed, couldn't find any new pieces. When I get to talk to Dick, I'll ask him if we've got any spare parts hanging around. We may, so we can save the cost of doing it. If the state will do it, that's fine. He told me it's not that big of a job. It's just a matter of getting the right parts on it. And so that's where we are on the dock situations. And what else is in here? The Beaver Dam was removed down by the weir gates by our DPW.
Great.
Suffield DPW moved the one that was south of the state line, farther down on Canal Brook, just past where Palmer comes in, and Cannon Brook there comes in. So both of those were removed. And so they're clear, but the water level is still generically low. Our water is back to basically normal in the lake, but the weir gate's holding it up. And that was the only things I had. Under other, anybody else have anything?
Just wondering how Dick's doing. Does anybody know?
No.
I saw him a couple weeks ago. He was fine. He was outside walking around, and he said he's doing fine, but I haven't heard anything since.
I saw him Saturday during the procession around town. He looked great. And from the last meeting I was at, I heard he has a doctor's appointment coming up that will give him clearance to go back to somewhat normal activities.
Good.
Good.
Thanks,
Very
Doug.
good.
Yep.
Was he in front of his house?
He was. We were beeping and honking, and he came out as the procession went by his house, and he was waving and looked to be in good spirits.
Good.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Good to hear.
Okay, does anybody have anything else?
Eric, I appreciate you looking into that.
Okay, wait a minute.
No,
Did
no
we
problem.
approve the minutes from the last?
No, you
meeting?
didn't. I was just gonna say you didn't. You need to vote on the minutes from last time.
Okay,
yeah, that's right.
has everyone read them?
Yes.
Anybody need more time or anything? Any comments? No comments? And then I'll take a motion.
This is Deb. I make a motion to accept the minutes as they are.
I'll second it. Norm.
Norm seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay, then the notes are approved unanimously. All right, I don't think we have anything else to cover. Our next meeting is 12/10. We'll do a month once and then we'll do it again on beginning of January. We'll do it the 14th of January and the 11th of February for the meeting schedule for the winters, once a month.
Yep.
All right.
Good.
All right, then.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mike made a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Deb seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Then we're adjourned. Thank you very much.